Hi, I'm Cruikshank. I'm not sure if everybody knows me. I chair of study committee C5. I finish up in 2024. It's been great for 5 years so far. One more to go. See how it goes. And we had the very successful conference in Cairns, which was convened by C2 and C5, which Angela's going to talk about later today. I'm presenting today on behalf of C5 and D2. Victor can't be here, but the two technical council members obviously give you a chance to get representation directly into the technical council and also provide information hopefully out. Normally I give you a lot of statistics, but not so much this year. I think we've got an interesting change this year, but normally I give you a lot of stats. In terms of 2023, the work of SIGRE does continue. And that's the one thing that you'll note about SIGRE, it rolls on. It's a big organisation, there's a lot of activities, we keep doing things. Angela's already mentioned about eSIGRE being, such a tremendous resource. We still keep punching out the technical brochures, we still keep punching out working groups, putting out green books. There's a lot of interesting information. We had the Muscat Symposium, and the big learning from the Muscat Symposium, for those that may not have seen it, was that when we do international symposiums, it's not just a chance for SIGRE to do its business, it's a chance for local authors to contribute to an international symposium. And we noticed that in spades at Cairns, which is something that really hadn't happened previously. It's part of the new evolution, I think, of SIGRE. And previously we would do our work, so we'd split it up, we'd divvy it up between basically the A and the B groups, and the C and the D groups would sort of run their own little sessions. But authors aren't accepting that anymore. So in Muscat we said, this is running it for C6 and a couple of other groups. Every study committee ended up with papers because authors want a chance to contribute internationally, and SIGRE is giving that to them. So I think that's a big learning we got out of Muscat. Birmingham was interesting, not that it was a very technical symposium, and for those that aren't aware, the difference between a symposium, which is 3 or more study committees being involved, and a colloquium, which is 2 study committees being involved, is that central office gets involved and starts pushing you around. So colloquiums are best here, nice and local. Dukeable is good. We had SIGRE Cairns, there's a report later today. There was a Vienna study committee C4, met in Vienna, which was fantastic, and we had the joint colloquium. And we've got Paris coming up. So the work just rolls on. That's the thing you notice. The thing I noticed in the Technical Council when I first get involved, we're always looking 2 years ahead. So we started working on the 2024 Paris thing in 2022. That's the way it works. There's always got to be that far ahead. This year I want to talk about the SIGRE strategic plan. For those that have been reading, you can actually read it. It's available on the SIGRE website, both the short form, which is quite readable, and the long form, which is, like most long form strategic plans, a lot of words. But it's all about SIGRE continuing to adapt. You remember last year, for those who were here last year, I talked about the evolution of SIGRE from 1921, where it started off very much as presentations by national committees of national matters, evolving through to presentations of technical subjects by technical classifications. And we're now evolving now to look at the transitional issues, and I'll talk about what that means in terms of how we operate a little bit later. It's fair to say that when we looked at the strategic plan, you'll see a fair bit from Australia for those involved. Australia has been one of the the Australian national committees that has pushed SIGRE into the 21st century, or in this case the 20th, because what's happened is Australia started to say, well, we need to market more, we need to be more obvious, we need to get out there. And that got pushed into the international scene. And that's why the marketing is done from New Zealand, which is the one that Australia chose. So Australia's been very vocal, very active, and I noticed that certainly in my study committee, and I think other study committees, the Australian panels push a lot of good information up into the study committee. So Australia's been very active, which is useful. It's fair to say the core purpose of SIGRE has not changed since 1921. The core purpose of SIGRE has always been the collaboration, getting information together, developing information. That was what SIGRE started for. So we've got our sessions, symposium, colloquias, working groups, all collaborating, getting information together, and then publishing it, getting it out there, which is your proceedings, technical brochures, books, and the key role of eSegro. And that core function has not changed, and that's one of the powerful things I think about eSegro. It's all about engineering knowledge, pretty well, and now a bit of other knowledge as well. Knowledge I'm not an engineer. The Who For is expanding, and I mentioned that last year. Previously it was about engineers getting together to discuss engineering problems. Now it's engineers and other people getting together to provide information to the industry, into the political environments, into other areas. So we're providing a much broader service now, and that's one of the benefits of SEGRO can do. And we've got to look at the various bodies. But the main thing, and this is the thing we've been focusing on in SEGRO for the last 5 or 6 years, is giving people clear access to our knowledge. For those that remember SEGRO a few years ago, it was hard to get the information out. If you didn't know where to look, you couldn't find it. Now, we're hoping we can get information readily available. Just to spoiler alert for something I'm going to say later today, eSegro, for example, now is Google searchable. So if you look into Google, you'll now get access into information within eSegro, which is useful. With the new strategic plan, there are 4 key strategic themes. Those that have been doing strategic planning, most of us have been involved for 10 years, they've always gave key themes, so it's worthwhile. So influence and contribute, I don't think that's really changed. Vibrant and inclusive. Someone from marketing got involved there, I can tell. The electricity future, which is good. And people and skills. This is one of the areas I think of engineering we need to focus on, is getting the skills up. One of the roles of the NGN, I think, really is getting those skills up. So influence and contribute was pretty standard, key information. But we're trying to focus a bit, and we've done this in the last 4 years, is getting it more to the executive level. And that's why they've got now the leadership thing. We're trying to get more information out to the executive level in organisations and provide information. We've beefed up and enhanced the central office services. So, for example, now there's an editor in central office. So when you're preparing a technical brochure, you can get editorial support. We've got information to assist people. Supporting national committees, we're expanding the number of national committees, and that's been pushed. For example, we now have the West Africa National Committee, which has started up, which is quite good as part of our initiative into Africa. Focusing on the future, the new technologies and things like that. Part of the transition issues is what the futures are, and sustainability and governance. And of course, increasing the participation and skills. The what area, though, is expanding. When we looked at the strategic plan and developing the strategic plan, we said, what's new? What haven't we done in the past? And so we picked 8 areas. I mean, you could have picked 10, you could have picked 6. I mean, it's a call. We picked 8. And this was done by the technical council. We said, these are the sorts of areas we need to think about. And you could rename them. You know, don't fuss about that. Read the plan, look at the detail. It's all about looking at what are the new areas that we need to focus on. And digitalisation is one which is becoming particularly important. Solar PV and wind, which is why generation is no longer rotating machines. If you remember, A1 was always rotating machines. It's no longer rotating machines. It's now solar panels. It's now all sorts of storage is in there. Storage is an important one. Hydrogen, that may become renewable gases. There's a bit of debate about exactly hydrogen versus renewable gases, but hydrogen is the name we chose. Grids and flexibility. One of the things I was involved in another organisation, Smart Grid Australia, and we said, the thing about grids is grids used to be about delivering energy from point A to point B. Now they're becoming a platform for the transfer of energy between various parties. It's a changing nature of what we do. Dealing more with consumers. People call them prosumers, electric vehicles. Sustainability and climate, yeah. And sector integration, which is about integrating into gas, integrating to other areas. Previously, we focused very much on the engineering of the electricity system. We now have to look at how it integrates into other systems. We made the decision not to, for example, start a study committee on gas. We decided not to start a study committee on fuels because we want to stick to our netting, but we need to keep an eye on what's going on in those areas because they impact us. This diagram is a direct copy of what's now on the Seagrey website, because one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, is about clear access to our knowledge. And one of the things we identified was that if you want to know about storage, where do you go in Seagrey? Who is the Seagrey group managing storage? And the answer is it's everywhere. C5 does it for the regulatory aspects. You've got the D1 for the technical aspects, you've got D2 for the IT, you've got C2 for the planning. Everybody's doing a bit on storage. It's not just one group. So if you click on the little thing that says view on the website, you'll show the activities for each of the study committees in that area. And that's a way of getting access into our areas. And also we'll show all the past work. The structure. We toyed with the idea of changing the structure because it's always fun to change structures, but we looked at changing the structure, but we decided against it. There's a lot of overlap, and if you look at the working group being set up at the moment, you'll notice there's a lot of joint working groups. And joint groups, one set up just recently, has 4 study committees involved, which just indicates the level of overlap now in the activities that we're doing. And that's an issue. So we did think about it, and we actually looked at a couple of different structures. But structural change requires a fair bit of thought and a fair bit of pre-planning, because it takes years to implement proper structural change. So we elected against doing that, but we've decided we're going to focus on the clarity of the roles, identifying overlaps and working with them. You'll notice there are 3 name changes. So rotating machines become power generation, electromechanical energy conversion. I'm not sure where that name from. It was just power generation last time I looked, but anyway, it's been improved. C3, power system sustainability's got in there rather than just environmental performance. And D2 have added cybersecurity, which is now becoming a big focus. So there's some name changes. And we've limited the number of changes because there was a thought to change the headings from equipment, technology, systems and new material. The B group in particular wanted to be subsystems, but the problem is it costs a fortune. Every time you want to change all your brochures to all these new names, it's just a fortune, so we've minimised that. But we're trying to say, and that's part of the reason for this diagram and the previous diagram, is that Seagrey has got a range of study committees, each dealing with these important new areas, and you can access coming in from different angles depending on what you want to know. So there's a lot of cross linkages. Just to think about the dashboard, when you look at the strategic plan, we have a dashboard and therefore we have some goals where we want to go. But the interesting thing about is we're still slowly increasing our membership. We're still increasing our cash reserves. We were surprised how quickly the cash reserves came back after COVID, because COVID hit us pretty hard, because we had obviously the Paris Palais, for example, booked up at a couple of million euros for each session, which we suddenly just lost one. But we came back very quickly. 2022 was an incredible success. And also Kansas helped, but that's previous this. Membership is going up. We're still improving in terms of getting the members in. And e-products, which is selling things out of e-Seagrey, is going very well. I mentioned the membership because the membership growth I think is really important, because that's one of our big targets, is membership growth. So in terms of planned membership, let me just go back. We look at how many members we've got now, 16,000. Strategic plan says 30,000 by 2030. That's a big jump. It's a big jump. That's a big challenge. And part of getting there is making Seagrey more visible. And for those that have been in Seagrey for a while, you'll notice the last couple of years, Seagrey has become far more visible. It's out there on LinkedIn, it's out there on other elements. We're putting information out more and more. We've got 3 different newsletters. It's becoming very visible, and part of that is to get the membership. The membership particularly allows more collaboration and get more information in. We're trying to participate more with the various study committees, working groups. We're increasing the study committee size to 30 members from 24. Part of that is to allow women in energy and NGN representatives onto the study committees, so the study committees themselves have become more participative. For those that are running study committees, a larger number is not necessarily a good thing. It's harder, but it does mean that you might get more members. which are more active members. And we are focusing on underrepresented areas. We've now got the West Africa National Committee up. We are looking to get more national committees into Southeast Asia in particular. So we're trying to expand into areas where SIGRO is not very well represented. Want me to wind up? Almost there. We've established a cooperation agreement with the International Energy Agency, which we see as being important. We're seeking to get over 1,000 papers into the Paris session, which surprisingly we might make that this year. It was actually a very big year, which was a bit of a shock to the chairs of the study committee, who suddenly have to review all these papers, and growing the regional conferences. I only put this slide in to show that Australia is now the third largest national committee, which is an interesting sign of the growth of Australia. That was there for that. This is my last slide. Okay, and Angela stole my thunder on this one. We've got a lot of SIGRO present elements. We've got all sorts of material out there, so you can get access to everything. We've got social media, there's plenty of that. But the big news, this is the one thing that no one else knows, eSIGRO 2 was released last week. And if you look at it, it's got much better search, much better access into information. It's worth having a look, and it's now you're able to access into it much more easily. And that's it. Okay, I'll take any questions.